Hey everybody, and welcome to Death By, where contestants will earn reps for their arguments or fear elimination. I'm your host, Lauren Kalil. Whoever I decide has the best argument through the final round will stand on top of the podium and earn 30 seconds to talk about a topic of their choosing. On today's episode, we have two-time Affiliate Cup champion and seminar staff head trainer, James Hobart, the 2008 CrossFit Games champion, 8-time Games athlete and affiliate owner of NC Fit, Jason Khalipa, CrossFit Games reporter Nikki Brazier with Kettlebells and Cocktails, and Games athlete Tim Poulsen with Team CrossFit East Nashville Peruvian. Welcome everybody, let's play Death By. Age group semifinals wrapped up this past weekend, and it was a battle for the top of the podium in the men's 35 to 39 division between Rich Froning and Scott Panchik. All weekend long, they went event for event, but ultimately Froning edged Panchik out unofficially, but just by a few points. What are your thoughts on this race being so close? We have 30 seconds on the clock. Tim, we will start with you.
Man, I think this was awesome. For me personally, I came into CrossFit and the Central East was the powerhouse region when I was first starting to compete. So for me, it was a really cool nostalgia trip, just kind of seeing those guys throwing down again, because they obviously haven't competed against each other in a while. And that 35 to 39 division is getting crazy stacked with guys with individual experience. So it's going to be a lot of fun to watch, and I'll be there before too long.
James, did this give you any blast from the past memories of the OG CrossFit Games?
Yeah, it was really exciting. I think one of the coolest things, it had that 2014, I think the regionals it was that burpee, front squat, handstand push-up workout where Scott and Rich were just kind of trading blows in that one. But also what I think is really cool is how much credibility this brings to the Masters competition, to see these athletes who have been doing it for so long, competed at high-level team individual, now in Masters. And then finally, look at what these guys are doing outside of the sport. I think Rich is competing in Leadville this year, and Scott is doing awesome things in his affiliate. So I finished.
Jason, do you have yeah, we'll give you that point. Yeah. Jason, I'm curious, does this make you want to go head to head with either of these athletes?
Ooh. So let's no, it doesn't. But I just want to give a shout out real quick. Scott Panchik, in my opinion, I mean, look at this. 2012, he started his run 4th, 5th, 6th, 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 11th, 4th, 11th in individual games competition. So that guy is, in my opinion, the most dominant CrossFit Games athlete to not be on the podium before. He's been crushing it for years. And him going against Froning in the Masters division is going to be awesome to watch. But it's not for me, not this year.
Not for you, but that's pretty good insight on Scott. Ooh. Nikki, what are your thoughts, especially being on the sidelines at the game, reporting on these athletes? What was it like seeing them battle it out during semifinals for age groups?
Yeah, I feel like I've been with both of these guys through so many different phases of their lives. I love to watch it. I love seeing the sport age gracefully, so to speak. And to me, honestly, the best athletes we have in all of CrossFit are the Masters athletes, because relative to life, look at the other things that these guys are dealing with. They are business owners. A lot of them have families. They've been dealing with injuries. I mean, they have lives outside of the sport itself. So continue to see them perform so incredibly well, I think, is just a testament to where the sport is going. I want more eyes on Masters.
I like that. It certainly was a interesting weekend in a lot of different age groups. Just congratulations to everybody who competed this past weekend. At the close of round one, we have a tie at the top, James and Jason with 2 points, and then right behind them, Nikki and Tim earned themselves 1 point. On to round number 2. The CrossFit Games season has various stages that ultimately filter into qualifying for the CrossFit Games. In the early stages, most Games athletes train as normal, aren't peaking, and typically just use an open workout, for example, as one of their many training pieces for the day. So, should top Games finishers be granted a pro card and automatically advance to quarterfinals? We have 45 seconds on the clock. Jason, I'm going to let you start because you have a little bit of experience with this one.
Oh, I do actually. I didn't know. So in regards to the pro card, I think no. I think they shouldn't. I think that they should have to go through the same series as everybody else, because just because you won at one point or you were dominant at one point doesn't mean you're going to stay consistent with that. That being said, early on in CrossFit history, for those people that don't know, if you won the CrossFit Games, it guaranteed you a spot at the CrossFit Games. They said indefinitely, but they took that away about a year after they gave it to me. So they gave it to me and then they took it away the next year. And so I think that it was fair though, because they made me earn a spot at regionals the same way that everybody else did. And so coming from a guy who had a quote unquote pro card and had it taken away, I think it was what was best for the sport and for the longevity of these athletes having to train hard throughout the duration of the year and look at it more as a professional sport, in my opinion.
That's interesting. Honestly, that wasn't the opinion that I expected you to take, but some good insight there. Tim, as an athlete yourself, what are your thoughts on this?
Philosophically, I want to say no, because I think you have to earn everything day in and day out. It's just kind of part of the lifestyle, part of the sport. But a lot of pro sports do have, they have contracts, they have pro cards. If you look at the PGA Tour, if you perform really well in one of their top events, you can earn status for a year, 2 or more, or invites to that event. So I think there's definitely some validity to that from a sporting standpoint, where these are the best athletes in our sport, and winning the best competition or the most competitive competition that we have should probably carry some perks. And I think quarterfinals, honestly, is a quote unquote easy enough stage for most of these athletes that getting a boost to their semifinals, maybe not, but I could be swayed.
Okay. Nikki, do you feel like you want to sway Tim?
No, I don't. I understand, honestly, the appeal of this question because of the way that it could legitimize CrossFit alongside a lot of other sports that have that type of structure to them. So I'm not saying no way, but I do think that it takes an element of excitement away from the sort of like anything can happen this season mentality. And we see that year over year. I also think that it would keep fans and spectators more excited to make everyone prove their spot at every single stage over and over, and at a stage where we're really talking about how important it is to keep eyeballs on the sport, how important it is to sell tickets to every event, how important it is to kind of keep that unknown and unknowable alive that we all know and love about CrossFit. I think that giving those spots away would take a little bit of that magic away and a little bit of that excitement away, especially from the audience and the spectators.
So James, so far, everybody says that they don't think this is a good thing. What are your thoughts?
I think I agree with the group in this one. I don't think it's the right next step to professionalize the sport. I think I come at it from a slightly different angle. I do think something like a pro card might be able to clean up a lot of the logistical challenges we have around a huge online competition like the Open. And I think having the pro card could allow that to go away. But the downside is I think a lot of people would stop competing in the Open, because even though they're going to finish 100,000th or whatever, they still love that idea of competing against the world's best athletes. So I don't know if pro card is the right next step. I think maybe there's some sort of amateur pro registration pathway that could change things. But I don't think we're ready for this yet. There's other low-hanging fruit.
Okay. At the end of round number 2, we have James Hobart in the lead with 4 points. 3 points for Jason and Tim and Nikki. That means, unfortunately, we have to eliminate you. I'm sorry. Until next time.
I'm going to be commenting from the peanut gallery out here. Good luck, boys.
I love it. On to topic number 3. Last week, CrossFit HQ announced that they were laying off 20% of its employees. In a statement to affiliate owners, Don Fall said, quote, "While this was a hard decision, these reductions will help us create a more sustainable business model, make sure we're prepared for the current economic uncertainty, and position us to make some big bets against our most important priorities in the future." What do these layoffs at HQ say about the future of the sport? We have 1 minute on the clock. James, I'll let you start.
Layoffs are not an easy thing, and I want to be respectful to those people who were let go and those who were most close to making these decisions. But I think one of the things to think about here is this will change the resources the company has access to and can use and allocate toward different priorities. I believe sport is one of those priorities. Now, as far as personnel, I think the real growth for the future of the sport is going to come from 2 places. One, it's international growth. I think as we see CrossFitters and affiliates grow in international spaces, we will see the sport grow similarly from those international spaces. The other one, it's all about the money. It's sponsors. I think the more we see big sponsors come into the place, like where's our credit card sponsor? A watch sponsor would be awesome. Car sponsors. That's going to allow athletes to truly professionalize this and bring more money into the sport to make these events bigger and take some of these events and have more events that are like regional semifinals internationally. So I think that's a bigger part of this rather than personnel internally.
Interesting. Tim, what are your thoughts, especially as an athlete who is currently competing in the sport? What are your thoughts surrounding this?
I mean, honestly, again, similar to James, like I don't want to be disrespectful to anybody, but at the end of the day, business is business and they have to make the decisions that they think are right. They're not always going to be easy for people to digest. But I think we also don't have a whole lot of details about who was let go, what departments, things like that. So it's really hard to say with any certainty that this has really any effect on the sport on a direct level. But I think looking at it from a pure business standpoint, a company that isn't on sound financial footing can't take the bets that they want to take. And, Don Fall kind of alluded to that. Like they want to bet big on areas that mean the most to them and kind of they see the biggest future in. And, again, hopefully the sport is one of them. But I think a lot of it is probably going to come back to being able to take those risks. So if they're on better financial footing, they're going to be able to really kind of pursue the things that they think are the most financially viable and also hopefully will grow the community the most and the sport. So I think it doesn't really have any direct impact on the game season, if I'm being honest.
Jason, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so to start with, obviously, I want to be getting laid off sucks. And I'm sorry that this had to occur to the people that did get laid off, but I just want to kind of acknowledge something. CrossFit is very unique. And because it's a business, it's a methodology, it's a community, it's a brand, but it's a business. At the heart of it, it's a business. And if these hard decisions aren't made by leadership, and the board of directors giving, they want to see their returns. But if the business leaders are not making the hard decisions, there will be no business in the future. I think that's really important for our community to recognize that it's very emotional when CrossFit makes decisions. I get it. It's because you're connected to it as a methodology, as something that changed your life. But at the heart of it, it's a business. And if that business does not make financially sound decisions, there will be no CrossFit for you to feel connected to 5, 10, 20 years to come. And with reducing financial pressures, it'll allow CrossFit to focus on the future and grow even bigger and better for everybody in the long run.
And certainly as everybody has said, that our hearts do go out to everybody who was laid off, but some really good insight from all three of you. At the end of topic number 3, Jason and James will be advancing to topic 4. Unfortunately, Tim Paulson, we have to say goodbye. And I suppose at this point, you should be getting ready for your own semifinals.
Yeah, we'll probably go train more, actually.
Tip out and hit the gym. On to topic number 4. The affiliate model, it's a key part of CrossFit that we all know and love. Each affiliate is its own small business, and HQ encourages, tools not rules, to allow each affiliate to build their business and community how they see fit. But is there any scenario where you think CrossFit's business model could be successful as a franchise? 1 minute on the clock. I think both of you are going to give some interesting insight. Jason, we're going to let you begin as you have the big NC Fit sign right behind you.
Oh boy. Oh man. Do I think CrossFit could be successful as a franchise? At this point, I'd say no. I think that if it was 10, 15 years ago, I think the answer would have been yes. But I think the culture has been set and the direction has been set for so long now, it would be very difficult for these owners to want to convert over to a franchise. So just to be clear for everybody who's listening, when you have a license model, right, there's very specific guidelines that then trigger a franchise. With the triggering of franchise law, it starts to come into the look, the feel, exactly how your operations are ran. And typically there becomes a % of revenue that the parent company gets versus just like a license fee. I don't see affiliates that are so different in so many ways that are just utilizing the mark, wanting to switch over to a franchise. And I don't think CrossFit could have a license model and a franchise at the same time. So while if it was 10 years ago, I actually think a franchise would have been a good thing, would have created consistency, and I think would have grown the brand in a more consistent way. I think now it's too late and the model it already is what it is.
James, do you think it's too late?
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with Jason on this one. And I think one of the reasons he already touched on was just not even the franchisees paying back to the franchisor. So affiliates would be paying back to CrossFit. But the company of CrossFit now has an entire different reporting structure back to the government. I think the Federal Trade Commission regulates at least a handful of aspects related back to affiliation. And that would be an entire change in our core business model at CrossFit. And like Jason said, I think one of the other things that would be a really big struggle 10 years ago, or actually retrofitting this, is CrossFit wouldn't have seen the growth that it has seen. Like, one of the cool things about affiliation growth is it was user owned, user operated, and there were very little parameters. You could start an affiliate in a hut, you could start it in a garage, you could start it in a mega box, and that allowed to see the proliferation of up to 15,000 affiliates worldwide. There aren't other franchises that grew quite as fast as CrossFit did because of that. I think, yeah, totally agree. Very hard to retrofit to CrossFit now.
Yeah. And that growth was good and
Just
bad,
because-
Lauren.
Well, and I
Thanks.
want to expand on this conversation just a hair more. I'm going to give both of you 10 more seconds on the clock. Do you think that if CrossFit were to throw their hands up in the air and say, you know what, we're going to do this, we're going to go into a franchise, do you think that in 5 years we would see the growth plummet? James, we'll let you start.
I don't know if you'd see growth. This is a hard one. I don't know if you'd see growth plummet. I think you'd still see people branching off and doing their own thing. They just might not call it CrossFit.
All right, Jason, what do you think?
I think growth plummet is a tough term because I don't think you're seeing growth skyrocket right now. So I think that the barrier to entry was low on these license models and people can open them all over the place, which led to inconsistencies. That's really the problem that I think CrossFit needs to solve.
All right. I like that conversation. We might touch on that more at another time. But now, moving on to topic 5, we have James with 8 points, Jason with 7. Now, the final round. Recently, the Barbell Spin, they published an article looking into the expenses for athletes across different semifinals. According to the athletes that they spoke with, expenses can range from $1,000 to $3,500, depending greatly on how far the athletes travel. For athletes with bigger sponsors, they'll likely pay this expense, but most athletes, they will pay out of pocket. What are some ways that semifinals can be more cost effective for athletes? 1 minute on the clock. Jason, we'll start with you.
I don't think they need to be. I guess I don't know if this is I don't think they need to be. I think if you look at any sport like a marathon or a 10K or a Spartan race or anything of that nature, there's a cost of doing that event. And those people who participate in it are participating understanding the expenses associated. Like, if I want to go do the Boston Marathon, because that's really important to me, well, I know that I'm going to have to spend $5,000 on travel and hotel plus my entry fee. And so I think if people are interested in doing these semifinals, it's not CrossFit's responsibility to make it more affordable or less affordable, et cetera. It's going to be proven by the market. And if the market is dictating that many people want to come in, then I think it just is what it is. And those athletes either need to recognize if that's within their budget or not, and if that's within their goals or not, but is prioritizing where they want to spend their money. I think it's just different. I don't think it's necessarily a cost factor of reducing it. I think it's more about what do athletes want to spend on. And if they want to spend on it, they should be able to do it.
James, should semifinals help athletes with the expenses?
I definitely think semifinals could think about things like being centrally located, so a majority of athletes in a region or something like that can get to there in a reasonable way. I don't think there's a huge onus on semifinals to foot the bill for athletes showing up at semifinals. Again, call me biased. I think I fall on the side of, if you're professionalizing this sport, I do think there needs to be some sort of cost to it. I think if we start to make it as egalitarian as possible, especially at the higher levels, I actually think it reduces the professionalization of it just a little bit. Call me cynical. That's okay. You can send me an email. The other place I think this should come from is sponsors. Like I said, I'm hoping for a future where we see larger, bigger company sponsors come into events, and that allows some of these organic homegrown companies inside of CrossFits to continually sponsor and support athletes. I've also seen really cool things happen in the community. There's a young man that I used to coach back home at my old affiliate, and they're doing like a fundraiser to help get him to semifinals. So lots of options.
I like those ideas. Well, at the end of the 5th and final round, Jason, you were so close to being our first double champion, but James, he edged you out. He is our champion this week, and he will advance to the podium pedestal. 30 seconds on the clock. Anything you want to chat about, you may begin.
Wasn't ready for this one. Just a little shout out. I'm not a basketball fan at all. But I caught a interview with a fellow from the Milwaukee Bucks, and I'm going to ruin his name, Giannis Antetokounmpo. But they were talking to him. It was just an amazing interview, and I'm sorry I messed up his name, but they were talking about failure, and it was cool to hear his perspective on, hey, even though we got knocked out of the playoffs, he related this to someone not getting a promotion in a job. Or if you've played a sport for X amount of years and you had a couple champions, but other years you didn't, how is that necessarily failure the years you didn't get the championship? And I just thought it added a really nice piece of perspective to think about how some of the best in the world continue to analyze and self-assess, but also have that motivation to keep moving forward. So that was really cool. I recommend everyone check it out, even though I'm not a basketball fan.
That's okay. I actually saw a ton of CrossFit Games athletes sharing that around. So it's on the internet. You can find it on Instagram. All right. Well, congratulations on your championship, James Hobart, for our next week of Death By. Thank you, everybody, for being a part of our show. Jason, Nikki, Tim, it was a pleasure having you guys on the show as always. If you've missed any episodes, make sure you go to the Talking Elite Fitness YouTube channel. That's where you can find all of our episodes. And right now we are also doing a ton of pre-semifinals coverage that you can find there. You can also be a Patreon fan for exclusive content. Otherwise, we'll see you guys back here next week. From everybody at Talking Elite Fitness, I'm Lauren Kalil, and we'll see you next time.